What's up guys, Mark here at the Jeep Lab, and we are going to talk about drive shafts in this episode, so stay tuned. All right, guys, so this is one of our little short episodes, little tips and tricks, things to look at for your Jeep Wrangler when you are customizing, lifting, modifying, whatever it may be on the Jeep. Just some small things that I'd like to say get overlooked, so I'm trying to just help out the Jeep family. So today we're going to be talking about drive shafts, and the reason why we're talking about drive shafts is because a lot of times I see people lift their Jeeps and they don't replace the drive shaft. Now, it can go back and forth with depending on what brand, what height you're going, when you need one, but I always recommend that you refer to the suspension kit company itself on what they recommend with whatever lift you're purchasing from them. So again, we could go back and forth between all the different brands, all the different companies that offer them, when you should put one on, what size tires you have. Not really getting into that today. I just kind of want to talk about drive shafts, the fact that you should put them on when you go over a certain amount of height on different Jeeps. A lot of people just don't know that. So one of the things that you can take a look at, and if you're thinking, oh wow, I put a lift on my Jeep not too long ago, I didn't change my drive shaft, do I need to? So again, I would say call the manufacturer of your suspension kit, see if they recommend it. But if you want to go under your Jeep and take a look, here's some signs that it is time to replace your drive shaft. So the factory drive shafts come with what they call a CV style. And as you can see here, this is a bad one. There is a rubber boot here. There's a little clamp that's supposed to hold it in place. There's also usually a bunch of grease in here. And this one is completely blown out. Now the reason why this guy is blown out is because the angle. So this was on a pretty tall Jeep. And these CV joints are not meant, you can see here, they're limited. They are not meant to be fully angled and then spun in a circle. So that's why certain kits require you to replace the drive shaft. And typically with your big names like Drive Shaft Specialist, Tom Woods, JE Reel, a bunch of the different companies, Adams Drive Shafts that make these, they actually switch this end and give you what they call a double cardigan, which will allow for a greater angle of output on that transfer case going to the drive shaft. So if you go ahead and lift your Jeep and you don't replace this is what's going to happen. This guy is going to blow. You can see here, this one is starting to go. Actually, it's blown right in there. You hop up under or hop down underneath your Jeep. What you're going to be looking for, the telltale sign that this is starting to go bad, is right above where the drive shaft connects to the transfer case, you're going to see grease. All right, so the first thing is that grease starts going out. If you look under your Jeep today and you see just a little bit, that's the starting signs that you need to replace your drive shaft. So once that grease is all out, well then what do you have inside that CV? You've got almost pretty much metal on metal. Again, you got the boot starts to dry out. The boot is getting torn over time, and you end up with what we've showed you already. So that is an easy way to just hop under your Jeep. If you see that black grease starting to sling, it is time to replace your drive shaft. Now, one other thing is you may be driving your Jeep, you may have taken it off-road recently, and you start hearing a clack, 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 clack. That is basically meaning that grease is out of there, you're metal on metal, it's time to pull that drive shaft out. Now, if you do that in a wheeling trip, and you've got to drive home a couple hours, I recommend just pull that drive shaft out if it is your front. Typically on the JKUs, we see the front go bad first with the lift kits, not the rears. TJs are a little bit different, depending on, again, the height you go on a TJ. You're probably going to have to change that drive shaft. You're probably also going to have to put an SYE in, a slip yoke eliminator, and change to that double cardigan drive shaft. But if it's just the front, you can pull it and get home on two-wheel drive. Now, another thing I like to do with the various lift kits when I lift them is under the JKs, you have an EVAP canister box under there. And it's probably within about, I don't know, inch and a half from that drive shaft. Well, when you've got your axle here and it articulates, it actually swings when that tire drops down. So you're actually losing that inch, inch and a half, whatever it may be as far as travel. And what we're seeing a lot is that the corner of that EVAP box is actually hitting this guy right here. So once that EVAP box has hit this boot and it's messed it up, now you're letting fluids, you're letting dirt, grime, mud, whatever get in here, which is going to mess up the way the drive shaft operates, slides in and out, and expands and collapses. So definitely something to keep an eye on with your drive shafts, especially again on your JKs and your JKUs. Now our good company, good friend Teraflex over there, they actually have a pretty neat short video on something that I usually do for a lot of my customers if they want it. I try to recommend it to everybody, is you can actually take that EVAP canister, you can slide it over. It's got 2 bolts on one side, 1 bolt on the other. You can actually slide that over, use one of the bolts on the rear, drill a new bolt on the front, and you can move that over, giving you more room to keep your factory drive shaft from rubbing. So now you may be asking, all right, Mark, I see grease everywhere. I see my boot is torn. I see the boot in the middle of my drive shaft is torn. What do I do? Now there are a couple options on that as well. Yes, if you are an avid wheeler, you're probably familiar with aftermarket drive shafts anyways, and you're probably gonna be leaning that way. If you are just doing this as a daily and you're like, I don't wanna spend 450, 500, 550 bucks on drive shafts, what can I do that's a little bit less expensive? They do make rebuild kits for the end. And that's actually what this guy is. This one's been rebuilt. This one, I forget what brand it is. It's been a little bit. And other companies do offer what they call a high angle CV. So they're saying their internals are allowing for their CV style to actually articulate more than the factory. I've seen them as low as 50 bucks, and I've seen them as high as like 180, 190 to rebuild these ends. Now, if you're talking about the boot in the middle, this guy here, you can simply go on Amazon, buy a new new boot, and it's got a couple metal bands on there. Pretty simple to install yourself. Don't really need any special tools, but that's something really simple. But again, if you're gonna replace that boot because it's already torn, go ahead and look up Teraflex's video on sliding those EVAP canisters over underneath to help from keeping it do it again. So since I've got one of my Jeeps here, I'm gonna go ahead and show you the double Cardigan style. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, let me get under my Jeep here. And there it is. So that is the double Cardigan style. You can see here, we've gotten rid of it. Now the TJs and the JKs are a little bit different, but that's just to show you that style of drive shaft. Now, when you change to a double Cardigan drive shaft, you are going to get a new yoke for your transfer case. It's a pretty simple thing. It usually takes about an hour to change out these drive shafts if you haven't done it before. For those of us who do it on the regular, it takes a little bit less time because we just kind of already know what we're going to need as far as sockets, wrenches, whatnot to get them off. But there's videos on how to install drive shafts, so I'm not going to cover that one. But just wanted to go over again, guys, common things that we're seeing with especially these JK drive shafts and even the JL drive shafts. If the manufacturer of your suspension kit says you need an aftermarket drive shaft, do it. Get it. Don't wait. So again, it has to do with the angle, as well as if you notice on some of the aftermarket drive shafts, the diameters are a lot more narrow than these factories. I think they go down to about 2 inches on some of them, maybe 2.5 on some. Different manufacturers a little bit different. And then there's also the option to custom build different drive shafts. So that's why I'm not going too much into the specs on these things, because you can change U-joint sizes. You can have all kinds of custom stuff. I think they're even doing carbon fiber drive shafts now. Don't know if I'd recommend that on the Jeep, but hey, I don't know, never ridden one. But they've got aluminum drive shafts, they've got carbon fibers, steel drive shafts. So as far as specs go, I'll leave that to the guys who do drive shafts every day in and out. But again, just another short video, guys, to help you out. If you put a lift on your Jeep and you have not replaced the drive shaft, go under your Jeep, take a look, see if you've got any of that grease, check the boots on those things, and hope that helped. Thanks, guys, again. Don't forget, as always, like and subscribe. And if you've got any comments, questions, concerns, put them below. If you've changed out your drive shafts, I want to know what companies you guys use, what you recommend, and why. Don't just put a name on there. I want to know why you recommend them. I've used drive shaft specialists for tons of my drive shafts. The customer service is great. The warranty is great on there. I have Tom Woods on one of my personal Jeeps. Tom Woods sent me a good drive shaft, had a little hiccup, but they went above and beyond to fix the simple mistake that had been done. So I'm not bashing them. I'm just saying, hey, they had great customer service. They overnighted some parts to me in the middle of nowhere when I was out wheeling when I had an issue. So thanks again, Tom Woods. But let me know who you guys use and why below. We'll see you next time.